Hello, this is Sandra Poppema from HippoLogic, and I would like to talk to you about one of the beliefs people have. Some people think that if you use positive reinforcement or give the horse what he wants, that you are spoiling your horse. Some people are afraid that others will talk behind their back about them, that they're not a real horse person. One day, hello Caro, so nice to see you here. One day I went on a trail ride with my friend and our ponies, and we wanted to ride along the riverbank. And I was imagining it like we were cantering, water splashing up, and it would be so wonderful to do that because I've read about it in all the horse books I read and all the stories and in movies, and that's what we really wanted to do. So that day we decided to go to the river. It was really hard to go to the river because it was all fenced off. Later on, we discovered why that was. But we found somewhere where we could enter the river bank. So we had that sand where we could ride with our horses. But my friend, her horse was a little bit older, a few years older. So she went first and her pony said, nope, not doing that, and turned around and almost like knocked us over. So I'll say we were 17 or something. I was like, I'll go first. And I tried to ride Sholto into the water, but he refused. And that was really hard because what do? Well, you follow the instructions in your head and you do what you are taught to do in a traditional horse riding world. In a traditional horse riding world, you have to command your horse. They have to obey you. You tell them what to do. If they don't want to do it, you persuade them a little bit more with leg aids. We already got rid of our whips because we didn't want to use those anymore. So just leg aids didn't work that day. So I also had this wonderful relationship with my pony. So I told my friend, you know what, I'll dismount and I'll show him that it's safe to go into the water. I'm sure he will follow me. So I dismounted, I took one step, and I immediately sank with my foot into the mud, like almost knee deep. It was very soft mud, almost quicksand. It was super scary. So I was lucky that I held the reins, and with my other foot, I stood on firm sand. Hi, Trude, nice to see you. So I could pull my boot out because what would my mom said if I came home with only one boot. And we turned around and we went back home. We were so amazed that our horses apparently knew that it was absolutely not safe to go there. Later on, I learned that horses can feel through their hooves, and they can even hear low vibration sounds through their hooves, but we didn't know that at the time. We just knew that they were telling us something, and they were right. And I have many stories like that. A decade later, when I became a horse riding instructor, one of my clients was riding her horse. She has this beautiful white Lusitano stallion, and Vidago is always very cooperative. He's very forward, athletic, very human-minded. And that day, he didn't want to walk on. In my certification as a riding instructor, I was taught to command my riders, to command their horses to go forward. If they didn't want to go, they had to make them go, because that's how it works. There's a strict hierarchy. This is the instructor, this is the rider, and this is the horse. And you just have to follow orders. So I was there teaching my client, and her horse didn't want to go. I also could see that the horse, he didn't want to go. So I was asking myself, why not? And with all the stories in the back of my mind where horses were trying to tell me something, and when I found out what it was, that they were usually right, because they know what they want to communicate to us. So against what my traditional riding instructor method said, like, okay, you have to make the horse go, or you have to ask your client to dismount so you can ride the horse and you will show them. Well, I didn't want to do that because I could already see that the horse had no intention of going forward. So I decided to listen to the horse, and I asked her to dismount, and I asked her, did you do something different today? And she said, no, nothing. I said, maybe Fidago is sick. No, I don't think he's sick. Do you think he has a muscle ache? Maybe you worked him really hard yesterday or the day before yesterday. No, nothing was out of the ordinary. So there I was, and I asked her to take off the saddle so I could examine his back. And she had this wonderful tailor-made saddle, just made tailored to them. And she was holding the saddle. I didn't examine the saddle. And I was examining Fidago's back and where the cinch was, and I couldn't find anything. So I already started to worry, because I'm not a vet, what I would do next. But I knew that the horse was trying to tell us a very important message. And she was holding her saddle, and she looked at, she turned it upside down, and she examined the saddle cloth, and she found a really big, sharp piece of wood, a huge splinter that had poked into his back when she was sitting in the saddle. And then she said, oh, now I remember, I did do something out of the ordinary, because normally I saddle him in his stable, but today I wanted to let him out for a roll in the outdoor arena. So I brought my saddle, put it on the fence, on the wooden fence, and then after I groomed him, I saddled him. And that's how that big sharp splinter got into the saddle cloth and poked into his back. So we removed the piece of wood, we saddled him, she mounted, and he went back to his normal self, being happy, forward, and cooperative. And at the end of the lesson, she thanked me for being so considerate and listening to her horse and what he wanted to tell us, because she also knows how traditional riding goes. Normally, you just have to force your horse to do it anyway. And again, I was confronted with a horse that was disobedient, and while he was actually trying to tell me what was going on, he was actually trying to communicate a message to me. And what I learned is to follow your heart and listen to your horse, because the horse really has something to say. My pony wanted to keep himself, and us maybe, but himself safe by not going into the quicksand. And Fidago didn't want to move, because moving was very painful with that splinter in his back. So I think listening to the horse will really improve the bond with your horse, because in that moment you create trust. The horse is telling you something, and you're saying to your horse, yes, you can trust me. I listen to what you have to say. And sometimes it's very subtle, and we are not taught to listen to the horse and to give the horse what the horse wants and needs. And also with positive reinforcement, you start the relationship by giving something first. So if people think that you're spoiling your horse because you're listening to the horse, I would say, in my opinion, you're doing the opposite. Listening to your horse makes you become a better horse person. So if you want to know what your horse is communicating to you, if there's something that he doesn't want to do, I would like to invite you to listen to your horse. And if you need help with that, come join the Clicker Training Academy, because that's what we all talk about. And we are one nice warm community where we support each other and where we all listen to the horse first. And we all start by giving to the horse first, because if you give the horse what he needs and what he wants, then he can give us what we want and what we need. Vidago could only give his owner a nice, wonderful riding lesson because we gave him what he needed first. So thank you for listening to this story. And if you want to know more about HippoLogic, Hippo means horse and logic means science, enter to my website, clickertraining.ca, and connect with me. Thank you very much. Bye.